Hey guys! Okay, so today we did a lot of different things. First of all, we read the story of How a Kite Changed the World by Amy Bolt. It's a narrative, but it's a narrative nonfiction story. We focused in on what makes it a narrative, so understanding that, okay, it sounds like a story being told to someone, but being a nonfiction narrative, some of these events were actual things. They really, truly did happen. Okay? We're going to go through the Let's Think About It pages as well, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the editing marks that go along with writing. So without further ado, let's get started.
How a Kite Changed the World by Amy Bolt. Rain pours from the sky in sheets. Thunder crashes all around, and the flash from lightning shines on one brave man battling the storm. Who could this brave man be?
Who might this be? Well, looking at the picture, we can kind of guess it's someone, in particular in the history, that is kind of important. Seems like he has got a key here on his little kite and has little glasses, a little hint he was the first man to create a library. It was none other than Benjamin Franklin.
None other than our very own Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin believed that thunderclouds carried electricity and that lightning was a large flash of electricity. He wondered if electricity could be useful, and if it could, how. Benjamin Franklin also wanted to find a way to protect houses from getting hit by lightning. That is why one stormy night, Benjamin Franklin stood in the middle of a field holding a kite.
So this was a big problem back then, when buildings were made mostly out of wood or things that were very flammable are able to be burned with like a fuel, one of our vocab words this week. Lightning strikes, especially during the dry season, like here in Arizona when it's not monsoon season, it can get very dry, and if a lightning strikes it, it'll light on fire, and it'll just go whoosh, and a house will go up in flames really quick. So him doing his experiments, trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep that from doing that, changed everything.
On that famous night, Benjamin Franklin held a kite with a metal rod about a foot long placed on top of it. Benjamin Franklin believed that this rod would catch lightning. He tied a metal key to the string of the kite. If his theory was right, the electricity would travel to the key. Benjamin Franklin took the kite to an open field. When the wind started to blow, he let the kite fly. He watched the kite and waited. Benjamin Franklin was starting to get tired, and he began to think that his plan was not going to work. Then he noticed that some loose bits of kite string were standing very straight. It was working. He touched the key with the back of his hand and felt a shock. Electricity had passed from the cloud to the kite to the key. I bet
that was very shocking of a discovery. Well, he had done this experiment probably several times before, but the most famous example is here with this kite with that metal rod at the top to catch the lightning. They're actually called lightning rods. They're the same thing, you know how there's antennas on really, really tall buildings? Yeah, those act as lightning rods to make sure that the buildings don't get shocked by lightning themselves. His idea to do that to a kite, to conduct electricity through it, is kind of how the study of electricity began. All right, so let's think about it. So what is the topic of this selection? Well, based on the picture as well as reading the text, we know that it's got to do something with lightning. Benjamin, I can't say his name, Benjamin Franklin, and the fact that he was doing experiments with electricity. Now it's asking us, what do we think is the main idea of this topic? Well, again, how his experiments with a kite changed the world, because up until that point, no one had ever done any experiments with electricity yet. All right, let's go ahead and keep reading.
This was not the end of Benjamin Franklin's tests of electricity. He turned his house into a laboratory by putting lightning bells in place. The bells rang when lightning was nearby. Benjamin Franklin fixed a tall metal rod on his roof to attract the lightning. The rod would attract the electric current in the air and travel through a wire in his home. Small bells and brass balls hung from the wire. When clouds passed with electricity in them, the balls would strike the bells would ring, and a flash of electricity would travel between them. From his experiments with the lightning bells, Benjamin Franklin hoped to show that placing a lightning rod on the roof of a building might save it from damage. If the lightning rod would attract lightning for Benjamin Franklin's experiments, then the rod could also redirect lightning away from buildings.
Remember that tall antenna I was talking about? He started this a long time ago, experimenting to see if it would work. All right, it says, based on the facts and details you've read so far, what kind of person do you think Benjamin Franklin was? Well, just like we watched a video with our social emotional today with Dojo and how he was working with electricity, he was an inventor. Benjamin Franklin was an inventor. He was thinking outside the box, out of the normal. He was curious. He had perseverance, or wanting to do something and working towards something, even when you might not have succeeded at it the first time. That power of yet, of keep working, keep moving forward. That is what we've read from this story with Benjamin Franklin as well, because he continued to experiment by turning his house into a laboratory. All right, so what facts and details from the page support our main idea? Okay, so our main idea again was about electricity, how that kite, that experiment, changed the world. Based on the different things like his further experiments with electricity of creating a lightning rod for his house, those bells that would ring when lightning was near, and other things like it, we know that our whole theme of this story, the main idea of the story, is about electricity and Benjamin Franklin's experiments with it. All right, let's go ahead and keep reading our last page.
At first, many people were interested in Benjamin Franklin's discoveries, but they did not stay interested for a long time. To most people, watching his tests was like watching a show. The sparks, lights, and bells were fun to look at, but people didn't understand why electricity was important. With time, people began to pay more attention to ideas about electricity and how it may benefit their lives. Before Benjamin Franklin and his kite, people knew very little about lightning and electricity. Benjamin Franklin took something found in nature, electricity, and explored everything about it. Today, every time we turn on a light, we know that Benjamin Franklin's ideas about electricity were right.
So what started with a key on a string and a kite in a rainstorm turned into us being able to have computers like the one you're watching right now, or a phone, or anything that plugs in. All right, so we are going to make connections between our texts this week. This week we read the story of Charlie McButton loses electricity and how the kite changed the world. So what are the few ways that Charlie McButton used electricity? Well, like I mentioned a second ago, that's an example of, well, he had his electronics, he had his computer, he had his tablet, or the little gadget that he wanted to play with. He was able to use all these electronic things until the power went out. And then it became a little harder. If Charlie could talk to Benjamin Franklin about electricity, what do you think he might have asked? Well, he'd probably be like a lot of us and ask Benjamin Franklin why he's doing the experiment in the first place. Like, why did he stand in the middle of the field? What made him think that that might have worked? He could have also asked him, okay, well, if electricity is lightning, how does that get into our power line? And finally, we're going to talk about pretending we are Charlie. If we were Charlie, what would we say to Benjamin Franklin about his experiment? Go ahead and tell your parents that answer, or you can write it down. It's up to you. But thinking about how might we talk to Benjamin Franklin? What might we ask him? What might we guess at his answers might be? All right, guys. So after this, we actually went over our writing skills for this week. Very, very basic skills. However, I will show you what those look like really quick. Okay, guys. So today we talked about editing our different parts of writing, right? If we were going to revise something, we were going to edit something, we need to have these revising marks. So we started with, if something needs to be taken out, you do like a little swirly mark. If you need to add something, you have a little caret mark. It's like a little triangle facing upwards. A period, it's just a period with a circle around it. It'd be like, hey, you're missing something. Move is a little arrow pointing to wherever you need to move stuff to. Uppercase letters, looks like a little equal sign, but it would go underneath whatever letter that you're looking at. And then a lowercase letter, you slash through that letter that should be lowercase, and our new paragraph sign, okay? So the new paragraph one is a little bit more rare than everything else, but these are the most common revising marks that we've used so far. I put mine on the inside cover of my notebook. If you could please copy them there as well, so we'll have them the rest of the year, that would be really helpful. All right, guys. We also went over our spelling work pages, which I will share with you now. Give me just a second. So on page 49, as you can see right here on my camera, we have the short vowel syllables VCCD, so vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, what we've been working with all week. If you ever get confused about our worksheets, by the way, guys, our story, our main story for the week will always be up here in the top corner to make sure that you know which one you have in front of you. But again, this is page 49. So it asks us to proofread a sign. The Rodriguez family stopped at a farmer's market. We need to circle 4 spelling mistakes in this sign, then write the words correctly on these lines. Then you have to find the punctuation error that happened in the little sentence right here and write that sentence correctly on number 5. All right, so I did the first one for you here. We found the word winter, should be winter, it's spelled wintar here. So we're going to circle it to say that it was misspelled, and then we're going to write it on number 1 correctly. All right, on the bottom selection, it says proofreading words. Circle the word that is spelled correctly. So we're choosing the one that is spelled right. So our 2 options were happen with 2 P's or happen with 1 P. We know from our list of spelling words over here on the side that happen has to have 2 P's. So we have to circle the first one and then write the correctly written one on the line. All right, if you guys have any questions about that, again, call, text, message, any of those things, I will get back to you as soon as possible. All right, guys, that's it for our reading and writing for today, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.